are traveling on?
Draw pile is the thing.
Okay.
And
Do
then
I have
you,
that?
and I think you go to session join, and then I think it should already pre-fill the server,
Mm.
and then it's the channel brains, because clearly we have none of that.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. Wait,
Brains.
oh fuck, hold on. Let me, hold on. What a fuck? Why can't I draw? Is it like, hold on.
You have lost the ability to draw.
How do I delete? Help. Delete. Okay. Why is the... Why?
What are
Why?
you muttering about?
I'm trying to paint on the background layer which has some shit on it, but I can't. I don't know why. It's just not doing it.
Mm.
I can... Wait, what? Where is this? Okay. It's on no layer at all. Do you see this crap? It's...
No?
There's like dotted rectangles, some blue lines, some black lines,
Oh
and
yeah,
some
that.
text. And it's not on the newest layer. It's not on the background. It's just nowhere at all.
Hmm.
What? Cool bug program. Nice job.
I
Wow.
remember someone talking about something better than draw pile, but I cannot remember where.
Like what?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think
Draw
it
pile
was.
is alright for the most part, but yeah. It's a bit...
I think it was an in-browser working thing.
What?
So that it works like in your browser. When you
Oh.
install anything.
Oh. Well, there's plenty of those, but most of the ones, well, all the ones I know kind of fucking suck, so.
Mm.
Drawpile is like the only one that actually had working pressure sensitivity for me.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, so last time we did a name thing and we didn't figure anything out, so that was great.
Yep.
This time we're not gonna do names because clearly we are not up to the task of creating names.
Yep.
I've been trying to think of more, but all I can think of are names that are really stereotypical, like, I don't know, Section 5, and I don't know. Yeah. So instead, I've been thinking a bit, at least today, about just basic gameplay elements and things like that. So I like wrote on a piece of paper that you can't see, and I've been thinking mostly about what kinds of features the game even has and what I should focus on, because it's kind of a weird hybrid, or at least the ideas I have right now. So there's, as far as I can tell, there's like 3 major things to do. So there's obviously there's a platforming, you know, where you jump and run and whatever. So the Celeste style, and then you
I've never
have,
heard of this.
yeah, never heard of it either, but I just invented it
Mm.
today because my game is so novel. I had to invent a term to describe it. All right. Anyway, so there's platforming. That's one part, and then there's like the detective case system where you solve cases, and that's sort of one other completely distinct part that pretty much has nothing to do with platforming at all. And then you sort of have a free roam adventure component where you roam around the hub or like a dwelling or whatever, and you talk to NPCs and you find random bits and pieces, and or like go exploring in the world.
Mm.
So there's these 3 kinds of systems that I can tell, and so basically you also have this kind of thing where the adventure leads to solving cases, and once you solve the case, you go back into adventure mode, or you need to travel to a new area, so you need to do a platforming segment, and then you go back into adventure mode once you arrive in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of branch off into these distinct features from the main sort of hub mode,
So
I
there's
guess.
no connection between these two.
I've been trying to think of one, but it seems very strange to go from a case directly to platforming or vice versa
Okay.
to me. So I've been ignoring that. Yeah. Right. So for the adventure part, it's mostly things like you talk to NPCs that are around on the world map, and you find ideas or clues on what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one part. Or you have, like, you find a certain piece, like a computer that you can interact with and find information. So the difference between those two is this is a terrible icon. Should just fucking write it. So you have NPC dial. If I could write, Jesus. NPC dialogue, and then you have I don't know what I should call this, but like finding items, or things like that. And the difference mostly between these two is that the NPC dialogue is like interactive, and you always like have an exchange between the characters, whereas the item is always reflective in the sense that only the player character can sort of think to herself. And then you have the exploration, which is completely without text and just conveys things through, well, visuals and music potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these three branches, I guess, in this.
Are you going to learn how to make music?
No.
Okay.
If I ever get to that point, I'm most certainly going to commission it. No way in hell I'm going to learn music or sound effects. That's not happening.
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
Yeah. So for each of these things, there's naturally a lot of questions that come up. But before I go into that, I kind of want to expand on the other things. So for the platforming, there's a lot of different elements that can pop up. So I've been thinking about a bunch of those and trying to decide what I want to include and what I don't want. But it's kind of, for a platformer, there's always more you can add
Mm-hmm.
if you have enough time to balance everything out or find interesting ways of doing things. So I'll talk about that later. And for the cases, uh, the cases are sort of more of a contained version of the adventure, where you have basically two phases. The first one is finding clues, which you can do by either talking to NPCs or finding items on the floor. So we again have this NPC or item thing.
Do you have to do both?
Well, depends on the case, or depends on how well you want to do. And then the second step is like solving the case. Which is piecing together the clues you have found to find an explanation for what happened. And that's sort of the thing I'm most unsure about how to do, because there's a lot of ways that could make it interesting, but at the same time also very frustrating and like confusing to the player.
Yeah, and
So
if you get it wrong,
yeah,
what the heck do you do then?
yeah. I mean, it's not like this is certainly something that's going to become more clear once I actually have a prototype and can do playtesting and stuff like that. But for the moment, I'm just trying to brainstorm ideas on how that should actually work.
Well, if you keep the cases very short, you can, I mean, very minimal, you can actually design the rest of the game around the cases if you get right or wrong and how it affects.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure how much I want the influence of how he solved the case, how far I wanted to go. I think we've already talked about this a bit
Yeah.
in another time. I'm not sure if that's recorded at all. So the idea is, for instance, let me try to think of an example case that I could invent. So, for instance, you have an old lady, and the old lady asks for help from you because you're a detective. She says, "Ah, shit, my cat has gotten lost. I can't find my cat anywhere." And then you're, "Okay, I'm gonna find that cat for you." And so you go to sort of your case. The find clues part is sort of restricted to a certain area. So you have a certain, like, I don't know, maybe the inside of her house and her lawn or something like that. So you have, like, I don't know, 2 places to be. One is the lawn, and one is the house. And then you have various things, like you can find scratch marks somewhere, or you can find, like, food scrambled about, or a broken window, I don't know. And you can, each of these things, once you inspect them, there's sort of a small dialogue by the player character about what they think is going on, or what this could mean, and then you get this sort of in an entry as in a clue database. So you sort of have a, I guess, a journal or a logbook where you have all kinds of clues listed, like uh, broken window, scratches, food, or maybe in the lawn you find a hole in the fence or something.
Hmm.
Or maybe you find a threatening letter, I don't know. And then you can talk to the old lady, uh, who's got the cane here. I don't know. And she tells you, like, my cat's always been so sweet, always loved me, and great cat. And so you have, like, a lovable cat as an entry, right? Or, you know, maybe the food is like, you analyze it and you find it's terrible food. I don't know. So you have certain information parts that indicate different kinds of directions. So the fence hole could indicate that the cat ran away, right? The broken window indicates that maybe someone broke in. And then the threat letter might lead to you thinking, okay, maybe the cat was stolen, right? But on the other hand, the bad food means maybe the cat just ran away, right? And the owner is just lying about the cat being lovable or something, or she's delusional, I don't know. So you kind of, the idea here being that you get clues that not all point in the same direction. So you actually have to, like, make your own guess about what happened. And
Yeah.
I suppose how confusing it is varies depending on the case. So some cases are clearer than others. And then once you think you have found all the clues, regardless of whether you actually have or not, you can say, okay, I'm going to solve this case now. And then you need to have, like, what I'm thinking of right now is sort of a system where you have, like, a sort of a sentence with holes in it. So, like, the cat, and then, like, the owner, and then blank from home. And then you could fill in, like, the cat hated the owner and then ran away from home, or like by the hole in the fence or something, or the cat loved the owner and then got kidnapped from home by a what do you call it? someone who threatens you for money or something, extortionist. So you could like have different kinds of answers for the same sample text, and then depending on whether you did well or not, that might influence things in the future. So maybe in the future you find a clue, you find the cat again, and maybe you find it out in the streets, so you know it ran away, or maybe you get into talks with someone trying to sell a cat, and you know it was stolen. So that might be like a soft way of communicating to the player whether they do it well or not. But I'm still on the fence about whether I actually want a results screen that tells you how well you did.
Yeah, you could make it that all these paths are correct, but they just change how the story goes.
Yeah, but that explodes into so many things that I'm very unsure.
Well, if it's only kept within the investigation.
Mm, yeah. Anyway, the idea is sort of like the idea of the text with the holes in it is that on one hand there is room for multiple solutions,
Mm-hmm.
but on the other hand you need some kind of minimum amount of information that you have gathered to actually complete the case. So you
Yeah.
can't just get away with not gathering anything. I have been thinking about something that is even more freeform than this, where you can just sort of um, where the system does not have these kinds of holes, but rather you actually freeform write a report. So you get a text box and you write what you think happened,
Yeah.
and the system basically scans for certain sentence fragments to see whether you think whether you it thinks you actually solved the case correctly or not, and that would allow you to sort of solve the case on a hunch without actually having enough information or correct information, which I think could be very interesting. But obviously, the problem with freeform solutions is the system going to be smart enough to actually detect what you meant?
Yeah, parsing.
Yeah. So one idea I've had to fix that is sort of that the text is marked up with a clue. So each clue has sort of multiple kinds of names associated with it, and when you type it in, it actually gets like a box around it, so that you know the system has recognized this as a clue that you associate with the case.
Yeah.
And using that, you can sort of more easily determine uh, what the player meant.
What if you give in all the clues, like?
Yeah, yeah. So this has a lot of drawbacks, but I think it would maybe make for an interesting uh, uh, method of or an innovative way of doing these kinds of detective kind of deals.
Yeah.
Because what I've seen so far of other things, it's mostly an adventure game where you just have different kinds of dialogue trees that you go through, and
Yeah.
then
Do you continue once all the dialogue options are gone?
yeah, if once you find the right one, you proceed in the story and you're good.
Yeah.
So it's not really like there's not really any kind of unambiguous or ambiguous failure case like there is for an actual detective, where you can do wrong but you don't know. So to that effect, that's another thing that I've thought about is sort of where you solve the case but you sort of get an opposition. So as a sort of a third step, sometimes, uh, which also might help to like push the player into a correct solution. Where at the end you maybe have like I don't know, maybe you find a murder scene and there's a cop there, and the cop like is okay, sure, you're not actually police, but since you're a detective, I'm gonna let you help. And then once you solve the case, the police is going to the policeman is going to look at it and say, like here's my opinion, or like he's gonna say, I don't think this is right, or this contradicts what you say. and so you have to go back and reinvestigate or correct things.
Mm-hmm.
But this should still leave open the possibility to convince the opposition of a wrong solution. So if you have a wrong idea and you sound convincing enough, then he's simply going to believe you, even if it's not actually true. So that could lead to sort of interesting moral dilemmas later.
Well,
But that will be even more difficult to do if you have a freeform kind of deal going on.
yeah. And it sounds like even more work than just a standard platformer would be.
Well, obviously, all of this is more work than a standard platformer, but I think the case system is something very interesting
Mm-hmm.
that is also novel because I frankly haven't seen anything like it before. I'm not sure if that's because it's not doable or because people just haven't tried yet. But the problem I see primarily with the case system and like with lots of adventure games is that there's a fatigue that sets in
Yeah.
where you get very tired of doing this over and over, which is why I have these two other sections in the game that are supposed to sort of leave you to do other things. So, especially one thing I want to do is not force you to complete a case. So, this is a thing that I stole basically from Deadly Premonition, where you can decide on your own when you want to do a case, or if you want to abort it, that's fine. You can restart it at any point, and you can just come back to it when you want to. And so the idea is that you keep all the clues, you keep all the information you've gathered, and you can just return to free roam adventure mode or do whatever else until you go back to the case and actually solve it for good, or just leave it open.
Yeah, that could be pretty good.
Yeah. Naturally, you can't do that for everything. Like, main story cases would need to be solved to advance the plot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that should give some more freedom.
Did you ever play the old 90s adventure games where you actually had to type what you're going to do?
I've played some of those, but not for very long now.
Yeah. They had some ideas like they must be based on keywords, of course, but you could have multiple ways of saying the same thing.
Yeah. I know. They had like entire game engines based around this kind of thing, recognizing the proper terms, but still, like anyone who's played the text adventure knows the frustration of figuring out what the system wants you to say.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why I wanted to have like something that is much more obvious, like some kind of indicator to tell the player what the system understands and what it does not, so that you have a highlighting in the freeform editor that tells you this is something I understand.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's sort of my idea for the case system at the moment. And yeah, for the platforming itself, I have tons of different mechanics that I've thought about. A bunch of those I already implemented, so like I don't know, obviously jumping, what a revolutionary mechanic. Then you have climbing, which is one of many things I stole from Celeste. Spikes, hazards, I guess, which are just, again, this is sort of the thing. One good thing about this project is that the platforming is almost entirely separate from everything else. So it's a thing you can develop or think about without having to be worried about what it would impact otherwise.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have spikes, moving platforms.
Do you have any ideas how to make them make sense in the in-universe?
Well, I mean, spikes and stuff would just be hazardous things like glass shards or like sheer rock cliffs and maybe like mechanical parts that stick out or are sharp and things like that. So I don't think it's a big problem to find a justification for that. Nor do I think
Okay.
it's really necessary to justify it much at all. to be
Yeah, that's
honest.
fair.
Moving platforms is also like, I don't know, maybe you have certain kinds of parts of old machines that were supposed to do a thing, or you have rocks that simply drop down because they're unstable. So stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then naturally you have like very simple puzzly elements to mix it up a bit. So like switches and levers and keys. Switches,
Key cards.
switches, keys. And then you have like things you can break. So if you bash into something, you can break it apart to pass through. So destructibles. Also, by the way, if you're wondering why I'm writing so at a slanted angle, that's just how I do.
Yeah, it's fine.
Wall jumps is another one. And yeah, so that's what I have right now, I believe, or mostly what I have right now. No, wait. Implemented, I have jumping, climbing spikes, moving platforms, and wall jumps. These two are not implemented yet. And here's some things that I'm not sure about whether I want to include them or not. So we have in the game you have a dash mechanic.
Yep.
And that's another thing I stole from Celeste, of course. But what I've been thinking about is sort of a system that's kind of based on what's happening in Nier and in Ori, where you can dash through like a hazard. So you can, like, if you have a bullet or something that's suspended in the air, you can dash through that. So that's a sort of a thing I've thought about, but that's sort of connected to generally like moving hazards that I don't really know about yet. Moving hazards, or also bullets, things like that. The reason why I'm not sure about those yet is because they add a lot of sort of randomness or uncontrollability to it. So I'll add a question mark here because like especially if the bullets are fired aiming for you, then it quickly becomes to a point where you can't really replicate what you did very easily. So it becomes harder if the platforming needs to be precise. It becomes very hard to like figure out what you need to do. So it's something that might be contended a bit. But that would allow sort of a dash through mechanic that could be interesting. Dash through. What else do we have? Well, springs could be interesting. But since currently my thought is that I allow infinite climb, I'm not sure how useful springs would actually be. So
Well, mm,
I guess they could like spring you between like hazardous areas. So if you have like two walls of spikes, something like that, you could use a spring to get up there.
yeah, but what's the point of a spring then?
Well, one point you could also have like uh, horizontal springs and things like that. And the point would mostly be to give you an area where you're much faster, so you travel way quicker, so you need quicker reaction times than
Yeah,
usual. So that will be one reason.
yeah. And since you can't actually land on a spring, you can use them to make difficult platforming sections.
Oh yeah, because you're constantly in movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Well, enemies is another clear idea that has the same problem as the bullets, where
Yeah.
you have not random, but mostly unpredictable or hard to predict behavior that might make things too frustrating. So I'm on the fence about that. Then collectibles. So sort of like in, I don't know, in Mario and things, you have like red coins or like floating notes and things like that you need to collect in a sequence or like quickly enough in order to get a bonus or something like that, or the strawberries in Celeste. So something that
Then you
could,
would need something that you actually give for them.
well, it could be just extra challenge or bonus, sort of a jingle or something. Since there's no lives or no health or anything like that, that's something I'm very sure about. It would just have to be bonus
Yeah.
stuff. Another thing that I wanted to do in the beginning is slopes, and now I'm not so sure about slopes anymore. Um, well, I did implement them in the beginning, but currently they're broken again. So slopes could allow for some cool mechanics like sliding and things like that. But on the other hand, they're also kind of really complicated to get right, especially if you think about dashing and things like that. So, for instance, if you have a slope like this and then a steep angle like that, if you dash, what happens? Do you dash like this or do you dash like this, right? So
Yeah.
can you fly off of slopes or do you stick to the ground? And then, you know, other kinds of problems, moving platforms that have slopes on them, or slope
Yeah,
versus slope collisions and things
I
like
think
that.
commonly users stick to the ground.
Yeah, but having it detached so more physically accurate could actually lead to interesting things where
Yeah,
you
I know.
have a sort of a thing like that and you could have a much more fluid way of moving across, which will be especially interesting for speedruns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still not sure because it complicates, especially the level design a lot, incorporating platforms, slopes into
Yeah.
the environment. What else? Well, different kinds of terrain. So this is another classic thing, like
Ah boy, ice.
having ice or having mud or stuff like that. So ice, mud. I think generally people don't like these kinds of things. So I'm not sure. Mud might be interesting. So having something like, uh, well, both might be interesting. At least not on the floor, but on the walls is what I'm thinking about right now. So on the walls, a sort of a muddy or a sticky wall where you just stay stuck until you jump again, or the
Yeah.
opposite on ice where you can't climb. On the floor, obviously, having the friction and like sliding kind of stuff is really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably not gonna do that. Unless there's a way to stop yourself easily. Like maybe there's a down bash that you can use like a stomp or something like that. Let's add that. Stomp. Another thing is wind. So having something that pushes you in the direction constantly, and I need to move this stuff over. How do I do that? Where's the selection? Does this even have a selection tool? Select.
There is the rightmost tools at the
Do they
top.
have like a freeform select? There
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go. You. Unfortunately, probably gonna destroy your drawing.
No, that's fine.
How do I actually move it though? Um, uh, some of these icons don't really show up for me. How do I move? Laser pointer? No. Select rectangular? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just
You
move it.
just do it. The icon, the cursor doesn't change, so it's kind of
Yeah.
a bit confusing. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, I also got rid of the weird text and boxes.
Oh, how did you do that?
I took the text tool and
Oh.
clicked them and with right click and then delete.
So they're somehow not contained on the layer?
Yeah.
Weird.
Text has its own layer apparently.
Okay. So that's another thing. Then we have gliding. But gliding I'm mostly unsure about because it would require very large kinds of areas. And otherwise, if the area is too small, there's no point in having a glide. Because there's not really like long enough to glide for.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that. Another one would be wind canals. So instead of having global wind effect, you have like contained wind directions. So something like where you have a thing upwards and then there's winds blowing up, or you have wind sucking you in like different kinds of directions, something like that. And then below you have something that goes backwards. So that could be interesting, where you need to navigate in air to make the air movement a bit more interesting. And the final one I thought about is water, so that you can go into water and you have slightly different physics underwater. And that's something I'm pretty sure I want to do. But the rest are kind of open to debate. But yeah.
Let's see.
Lots and lots of things.
Yeah. Well, all of them could be good, but that's a lot of things.
Yes, it is. That's kind of the thing to like feature creep, of course, but also like making things too confusing if you put everything together.
Yeah.
Which is probably why Celeste ended up doing like one or a couple of mechanics that are only existent in each chapter, and they're never actually together.
Ah, yeah. It actually did that.
Yeah.
Do they even combine in the seaside?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Uh, yeah. I guess in terms of like content, the biggest things I'm worrying about is on one hand, for these two, the problem is primarily sprites or tile sets.
Art.
Yeah, because the size of the environments requires quite a lot of work in that sense. Especially if you have like a large enough town or something like that, you need a lot of unique detail that can't be reused. For other kinds of, for like platforming segments, you can get away with a couple of different looking tile sets. And there again, it helps like not having too much shit in there, because for all of that stuff you need to invent new assets and whatever.
Yeah.
And for the cases and the adventure, too, the primary effort would be writing text, which is much cheaper than doing art, but still probably needs a lot more overall. Text, dialogue. Yeah.
Much planning to do.
Yep. I think for now, though, the most important part is like focusing on the case system and figuring out a prototype on how I want to do that. I have some very basic stuff together, like being able to interact with items and opening text boxes and having moving text. What I don't have yet is like dialogue choices. So when you're asked a question and you have a choice, there's no system yet to allow you to choose something. So that's one part that needs to be in. And another one is obviously how to actually organize all this text and how to make the game put the correct text on the screen at the correct time and react to state changes and all that. I have a sort of a partial system for that, but nothing that allows me to write it conveniently. So this is sort of a thing I want to use Markless for, or an extension of Markless.
Ah, okay.
I'm thinking of something like using headers and then like a special kind of clause, like in curly braces kind of thing, where you have a condition where you can write a state expression that needs to be true for the thing to apply, and then the system chooses what to display based on that. Yeah, but again, it's like thinking about all that stuff that needs to be done. I have lots of interesting ideas for tiny little details in the world that I want to add, but yeah.
Yeah, I have to get the base working first.
And just thinking about all this stuff that needs to be done just kind of makes me scared.
Well, just need to focus on one thing at a time then.
Yeah. Just wish I had someone else to do everything for me.
So you can just sit back and be an idea guy.
Hell yeah, son.
I think they're called managers.
Oh, God. No, I do love programming and making art. It's just like, for me, not being able to complete a project is a major problem.
Yeah.
Because then it feels like wasted time.
Yeah,
So,
I have
yeah.
kind of the same problem. I don't finish anything.
Boy. Have you figured out what the blue stuff is from?
No, I actually
Because that's not on... Oh, wait, that's on the background. Never mind. I think that's on there.
I'm not able to erase background.
Yeah, now I can. Okay, good. Great. It's gone. Fantastic.
Can I say something about the mechanics?
Sure. Chirp in whenever.
I was thinking, how well would the investigation platforming mesh together, you know?
Yeah, so...
Since it seems kind of incompatible. One
yeah.
will inevitably get left behind.
Well, that's kind of... My idea is mostly that they're entirely separate. I don't see a way of combining the two in an interesting way.
That's probably impossible.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like where you have to move around within the investigation area, and that obviously uses some platforming mechanics. But, like, the interesting part about platforming is the challenge of moving around the obstacles and progressing. Whereas when you're doing an investigation, you need to move around the same area a couple of times. And that's not really compatible with that. So I was mostly thinking about the platforming as a way of giving you a palate cleanser. So having something very different to do every now and again. To also sort of facilitate that, I've been thinking about like incorporating sort of a training grounds into the adventure part, where you can just go there and do platforming challenges. So that if you're tired from case and you don't want to like go out to another area because you know you have to just come back again, you can go there to do some platforming and stuff. So something that's more freeform than that.
I see. That sounds good, I guess.
And mostly, like, for those two kinds of things, I'm mostly thinking about, like, Rune Factory, okay? Because there, you have, on one hand, you have the fighting thing, and you have the farming thing, and both of those have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're very, sort of, very loosely tied in the sense that you need money for upgrades so you can fight... like buy better weapons, and for that you need to farm for money. But that's like such a loose connection that doesn't really come into play at all. But it's a really nice thing that both of those areas of mechanics or both of those things are in the game, because you can always choose to do the other once you get tired of one thing. So it gives you a way of taking a break without actually having to stop playing video games and be productive for once. That's why Rune Factory took like 300 plus hours out of my life or whatever. It's
probably gonna be difficult to get right both of these.
Oh, of course,
genres.
for sure, yeah. I mean, this is all up in the air at the moment. I mean, the platforming, I'm pretty sure I can get the mechanics right. What I'm worried about is the level design, because I have no idea about that. And it takes someone very, very talented to do level design that's actually fun, even if you, like, no matter whether you've implemented the mechanics well, if your level design is shit, the game's not going to be fun. So that's what I'm worried about. And for the other part, I'm mostly worried about how well I can write characters, since inevitably solving cases and like roaming around the adventure world is mostly dependent on character work. Like, I can't get by with just lore or expositional text. I need to have actual characters in the game that are recognizable, and I don't know if my writing skills are up for that.
Yeah, writing is hard.
Speaking of writing, though, and especially characters, reading Yotsuba again, sort of, and thinking about it more deeply from how it's done, made me realize just how well written the characters are, because they're all very distinct. They all act in a very recognizable and consistent manner, and they really feel like different people. Whereas when I think about other kinds of comics and other kinds of written stories or something, a lot of the characters just either feel exactly the same, or they feel like they're not characters at all. So I'm really appreciative of how well it's done in Yotsuba. Anyway, just a thing I noticed.
Yeah, and often you just have characters that are just basically one trope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I can't flesh out everyone in the game naturally.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I don't know. You can still get a lot by just hinting at small details about people. I don't know. Maybe you have an item in the granny's home that is like, you find a porn magazine or something. I don't know.
I hope not.
Or you find out her fridge is entirely stocked with cat food and nothing else. And it's like, okay. Anyway. Yeah, those are my thoughts at the moment. Yeah. I really, really am interested in the freeform dialogue choice for
Well,
the resolution.
Maybe you could focus on that one first then.
Maybe I should. I wonder if I could apply like natural language processing techniques to make it more accurate or more likely to detect what you're talking about. But I don't know how deep I want to go with that, because that's like a huge thing.
Well, everything can be solved with deep learning.
How about you solve my ass with deep learning?
I'm sure it's possible.
I don't know. Yeah. Any other kinds of thoughts? Or questions? Or brain farts?
Well, I hope you won't give up.
Same, dude. Same. I'm actually like, I don't know if I told you about this. I think I did. So this semester I'm doing a game design laboratory for my university. And so we have 14 weeks to do a full game. And it's gonna be pretty tough, I imagine.
I have been part of those in the university as well, and there is almost always one group that manages to make a full game.
I'm mostly worried about team conflict. I'm not worried about making a game. I'm pretty sure I could make a game in that time on my own, but cooperating with people is going to be the primary challenge for me.
Yeah. I hope you get some good people at least then.
Yeah, same. We have to find a team until next Tuesday, so... Oh boy. Yeah. That's a thing. It's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As for for like, I guess the world that the adventure and the everything takes place in, I'm still not quite sure about that. But I've been thinking up mostly one hub place, so one sort of city that you or town that you return to, and several areas of interest that are branching out from that, so that you have like platforming segments to reach those places. And then once you have reached a place, maybe you can like activate some sort of train system, abandoned metro station or whatever to fast travel between the places, so you don't actually have to go backwards through the platforming segment again.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah. But the question is sort of, well, if we have this kind of central hub thing, the story needs to constantly like branch out into investigating one place, but it also needs to come back again into this hub, because otherwise it'll feel weird if you don't have a progression that naturally leads you back to the hub.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure yet what that's going to mean, or what kinds of whether this kind of restriction is actually feasible for the kind of story I want to tell. But mostly I don't know about the story either, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh boy.
Most of my ideas have been about Easter eggs that I want to put in. And stupid references to obscure shit I know.
Yeah. Indie games are full of those.
Yeah. I'm sure I definitely want to make a reference to Cafe Alpha. And maybe Near and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, things that you enjoy.
Things I know. If only I had a team to do everything I don't want to do. Or I don't know how to do, rather. Someone to write, someone to draw, and we're good. Too bad I have no money to pay people with.
Yeah, you will have to make some kind of demo and then seek some money from the government or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna write write to Donald Trump. Hey, dude, making a game.
No, I mean these, what do you call them? These small organizations that give money to small companies that are starting up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Support funds and charities and cultural support things, and I don't know the proper term. But yeah, I know what you mean. Institutions, I believe, maybe? No, wait, what is it called? I don't know. Another thing I've been that's more on the engine side that I've tried to take care of pretty seriously is to make the system extensible and not tied to, like, not having too much stuff that's internal. So the idea being that it would be very easy to add content, game content from the outside without actually having to touch any kind of internal code. So with the idea being that other people could more easily add stuff, or if the game ever takes off, like allowing modding to be more easy. So things like that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Well, usually you have some kind of an API if you do code.
Well, yeah, no, I meant more like things like for instance, the map file storage format just now acquired a versioning system, so you have like a backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
That's sort of important, and then you have like you have the currently the text dialogue kind of stuff is entirely separate, so you can easily like add content through dialogue and attach it to the game via conditions. And then all you need to do is like open the editor and plant in like an interactable item that has some sort of sprite sheet attached, and then it automatically figures out what text to display from that. So adding content to the game is fairly easy once you actually get to that. Using different kinds of sprite sheets and things like that as well is
Yeah,
aimed to be easy.
I was suddenly reminded of this one old adventure game where all the dialogue was in one large text file that was plain text.
Nice. Yeah, that's like I'm thinking right now. So what I'm thinking right now is sort of that you can split your stuff across multiple files, so one file maybe per quest or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have an overarching storyline progression that ties multiple quests together. But yeah, I mean that kind of stuff requires like also things like menuing and whatever, and I have nothing at all about UI yet. UI is going to be another pain point.
Yeah. Remember when we were going to just do everything with Qt?
Hell yeah, son. Good times. You still can, I mean, Qt
Yeah.
backend works, but yeah. Yeah.
Does it actually work? Didn't it break you last time you tried?
It broke, but I fixed it.
Okay.
It was a weird fix. I don't know. Something must have changed in the interface. And I didn't fix it properly when I made that change. But yeah, it works again now. We also have an SDL2 backend, so that's new.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. It's alright. Ah, Lord.
Does it only do the drawing, or did you use all the other things from SDL as well?
No, it's just a display stuff.
Yeah, okay. Like, I think they have their own font solutions and...
Yeah, they have a texture loader, a font thing, they have audio system, they have a gamepad thing, but Trial already uses its own gamepad thing, and sound can be completely external.
Yeah.
So, no reason to use those systems. I don't know. I don't even know why SDL is so almost ubiquitous. Because I feel like it does too much. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at least you can just decide not to use parts of it.
Guess so.
The most I have used from it, I think, is the PNG loader.
Mm. All right. If you guys don't have anything else to say, I think we're done for tonight.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything to say.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you come up with name ideas, we can do that. Can go back
Names are
to
hard.
yeah. Yeah, it is. So easy to sound corny or dumb. Or like nothing that fits. Chilling. Alright. Sleuthix. Right, sure.
Oh, next time, let's figure something out.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. I do want to work on this again, but this semester with the game lab, and then I have another lecture that requires exercises to be
Yeah.
solved, like extensive ones, and then I have also a seminar as well. So I
Yeah,
have
time
plenty of
is.
things to do during the semester.
Yeah, time is a bit of a resource.
It is. But good news, everyone, is that I have no exams in the exam block in August, which means I have 2 months of holidays after the semester.
That's lucky. I wish I
Yeah.
had that.
Hell yeah, son.
So we have like this system that exams are over 1 or 2 weeks, and then there's 1 week of nothing, and then everything continues.
Well, we have the weird thing where we have like end of semester, and then you have 2 months, and then a month of exams, and then you have 2 weeks, and then the next semester starts, I believe. Yeah, so really long summer break, but usually people can't take advantage of it because they just need to study for exams all the time.
Yeah, or have a job.
Mm-hmm. Or both.
Yeah, like me, and then fail the exams.
Gingy.
It's fine, I've been passing them now. Last 3 were all passes.
Good. You should really fucking finally get a salary job.
That would mean doing full weeks.
Really, there's no way to do like 60% or something like that, 50%.
Well, I can do partly weeks, like I'm going to do at my current job, but then I get paid by the hour rather than
Is there
the
really
bulk sum.
nothing that's salaried but not full weeks?
Well, I have never seen one.
Really? Weird.
Oh well.
Okay. Alright. Well,
Are you going to do some video games then?
yes.
Nice.
I think so. But yeah. I don't know when there's going to be another one. Maybe not for a while, but I'll try to work on these systems, and if there's anything cool, I'll post a video or something. But yeah.
Alright.
Until then.